Welcome to the certificate course on infrastructure resiliency. I am adjunct professor Scott Sklar, who teaches three different sustainable energy courses at the George Washington University over the last 13 years, including the first course in the United States on renewable energy and critical infrastructure. I am also Sustainability Energy Director of the Environment and Energy Management Institute, EEMI, at GWU. My 24-year-old global owners rep company focuses on guiding infrastructure owners, commercial, industrial customers, local governments, and institutional customers like hospitals and schools select the right blend of these technologies in the entire portfolio of high-value energy efficiency, renewable energy, and energy storage. I do not sell anything. I help guide them, give them a performance spec, help them blend financing and incentives to make sure it all pencils out correctly. So this Energy Resiliency and Smart Communities certificate course, the intent of this course is to introduce you to a broad array of the types of infrastructure our industrial society relies on. More than half is owned by the private sector, the rest by local governments predominantly. And what are the modern pressures threatening the stability of this infrastructure? We're going to cover terrorism and cyber threats, human error, old technologies and aging infrastructure, climate change, human error and animals, geologic events like earthquakes, and at the same time, look at what are the new technology drivers that tie to material science and information technology, artificial intelligence, blockchain, energy storage solutions, hybrid energy systems like microgrids, and looking at how all this entire mix of new technologies decrease risks and lower costs. So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at the fragility of the system and then the emerging forces on the system. So that is my approach. And how I teach, by the way, is use existing articles, peer-reviewed studies, government and think tank reports to sort of walk you through this, but have the reference materials directly as I'm speaking about it. So my idea is that since this is changing so rapidly, bring you the most modern set of articles, reports, and studies so you get the feel of what's going on. And of course, you can read further. So the layout is a class one, laying out infrastructure, resilience, challenges, and opportunities, what it is, obviously looking at telecommunications, the internet, our first responders, police, fire, ambulance, nonprofit providers like hospitals and shelters, and of course the water infrastructure, water treatment plants and sewage treatment plants and their pipelines, and then of course the energy infrastructure itself. We're going to talk about the existing risk profiles. We're going to obviously cover in the third segment of the course climate change pressures, supercharged events, and challenges that stress all of this out. And then the last one, which most energy courses don't cover, or resiliency courses, is water, both freshwater and stormwater management. And it is having a astounding financial and reliability impact that we need to plan for and understand. The class two, we're looking sort of at end-use sectors. So I'm starting with buildings, and by the way, buildings use most of our electricity. So we're going to look at the buildings and zero and net zero programs and approaches and technologies. The next is industrial resiliency, from industrial motors and protection of processes that can't be interrupted, transportation system continuity, and that's not just vehicles uh, and airplanes, but also all the signal lights and airport runway lights and security and communication systems that drive all that and coordinate it and make it safe. And then the last one is shared infrastructure, publicly shared, the electric grid, pipelines for water, sewage, and fuels, water and sewage treatment facilities, things like that, to understand the uniquenesses of that, but how essential they are to keep running at all times and what the impacts are when they're not. The third class is obviously looking at the energy system, the electric grid, looking at trends, power augmentation to the grid or the end user, virtual power plants and net metering, adding your extra electricity to the grid, microgrids, a whole new approach in technologies, sectionalizers and reclosers that through AI can sense problems before it happens and actually separate parts of the grid out that are causing problems so it doesn't bring the rest of the grid out. And then interface with high energy users, whether they're motors in industry or on pipelines or heating, ventilation, and cooling in buildings during the summer, that if they draw too much or at the wrong times or not controlled properly, can actually bring down the grid. Sensors control, artificial intelligence, AI, and blockchain, how that's being brought in, interconnection, interresponse, and transmission and distribution systems, and then energy storage, really looking at smart controls and battery banks and how that's changing the game. And then the last class, we're going deeper dives into certain areas that are important for you to know. Microgrids, which are generally blended generation technologies with batteries, either connected to the grid as a start, but usually connected at the building, the campus, or neighborhood, or even larger communities, so that they can power all or part of the critical functions and separate from the grid seamlessly when there's problems and reconnect when there aren't. And then we're moving to land use and recycling, repurposing, reuse, energy efficiency, all of the things that take the stressors off the grid, that and accessing technologies and minerals that we need in the future. Government facilities and services. The U.S. government's the largest owner of buildings in the world and the largest user of energy in the world, followed by U.S. state and local governments. So how they do it and what they do are very important in this whole game. And of course, segment 4, financing. Money makes the world go round. So how do we look at the public and private markets, bonds, government-backed instruments, public and private capital tools? Just give you a sense of what's fine-tuned for this emerging area. And of course, I have a closing video to bring this all together. So that's what this course looks like. I want to remind you, good planets are hard to find. We're on it. When I was born over 70 years ago, we had 2.5 billion people, and now we have over 8 billion in one lifetime. In that same time, when I was born, just shy of a quarter of the people were in cities. Now, globally, over 70% are in urban areas, which require more energy and infrastructure to sustain them. And finally, at the end of each course and each segment, I have a slide that says if you have any questions, you need materials, you need something clarified, you email me and I will answer it. And if I don't answer it in a day or two, you email me again with capital letters in the subject line and say, hey, professor, I sent you something, please get it to me. I am here to help you get the most out of this kind of subject and course, and also get the right materials and answer the questions or issues that are in your mind. And since I am both a practitioner globally and a professor in 3 different schools at George Washington University and guest lecture at lots of other universities, I want to be here for you to get the most out of it. So thank you for taking this course, and I hope this certificate course gives you the tools you need. And please email me after the course and tell me, what you liked and didn't like. And that way I can fine tune it in the future. Thank you again.